have to give me your routine.
He changes it every 2 months.
Would you give him permission to give me your routine?
My number actually doesn't receive
Oh, I'll wait till you call me. Are you going to be here at 8 in the morning tomorrow morning?
Is you one of these?
Yes, very much.
She replaced the time.
Retired girl. She did the whole website. Have you seen the website?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. My name is Yusuf Mahmoud. I'm Senior Advisor here at IPI, and it's my pleasure to be the MC, the facilitator of this policy forum entitled Fostering Entrepreneurship and Innovation to Achieve Sustainable Development Goals. This event is being organized in partnership with the Kingdom of Bahrain, with Tamkeen, with Global Entrepreneurship Network, with the Kauffman Foundation and the World Bank. This launch event is part of the 2018 UN High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, HLPF as known here, which is, as you know, is playing a central role in the follow-up and review of the 2030 agenda. As a moderator, I'm not supposed to speak too long, but let me just quickly say a few brief remarks from an unlettered practitioner who can't even spell the word entrepreneurship. So just a few words about entrepreneurship and innovation. Entrepreneurship, as it's commonly known to many except me, plays an important role in creating jobs, driving economic growth and innovation, improving social conditions, addressing environmental challenges, and last but not least, enabling youth to turn their creativity, energy, and ideas into business opportunities. These are not my words, I hasten to assure you. They come from a resolution adopted by the General Assembly in December 2014 at the very end of the discussion on the post-2015 development agenda. And therefore it comes as no surprise that in adopting the 2030 agenda for sustainable development, the UN has strongly endorsed entrepreneurship as an important means of accelerating the implementation of the SDGs. What about innovation, which is a key word in the title of our gathering today? I was looking for a definition that made sense to me. And I found this one in a brochure that I picked by chance last week in one of the UN conference rooms where an HLPF side event was taking place. I was looking for it, I couldn't find it, so believe me, I copied it. It said, innovation from a development perspective is a new solution with transformative ability to accelerate impact. It is fueled by science and technology and entails improved ways of working with new and diverse partners. It provides sustainable, inclusive, and scalable solutions to the world's complex development problems. To further elucidate the role of entrepreneurship and innovation in facilitating the attainment of the SDG, we asked our group of distinguished panelists that we've assembled for you 2 questions, or at least to address 2 questions. The first is how can entrepreneurship and innovation support in practice the achievement of the 2030 agenda. The second is what can governments and other key stakeholders do to enable dreamers to become creators and innovators and come up with inclusive solutions to address development challenges. These questions will be soon displayed on the video screen that you see near you. Before I share with you the process of how we're going to organize ourselves, and before I invite the panel to sit at the table, it's my pleasure to give the floor to Ms. Safa Sharif Abdul Khader. She is the Manager of Corporate Planning at Tamkeen, one of our partners, to give brief welcoming remarks. And stay where you are. After that, we will watch a very brief 6-minute, 5-minute video on the work of Tamkeen. So it's my pleasure to give now the podium to Ms. Abdul Khader. You have the floor now.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests, a very good evening. Representing Tamkeen Labour Fund, my name is Safa Abdul Khader. I would like to start by thanking all of you for joining us at this very important event under the theme of fostering entrepreneurship and innovation to achieve sustainable development goals. This event comes very much in line with the country's growing interest to expand investment in entrepreneurship by facilitating specially designed initiatives and support in catalyzing Bahraini companies to place them on a global platform. And by doing so, allow the nation to achieve its goals to develop a knowledge-based economy built around human capital and innovation. The theme, ladies and gentlemen, clearly indicates that the global goals have always been a part and parcel and an inclusive agenda of the country's development plans, where the country has already taken vital steps to achieve them in various areas through various strategic initiatives and projects, and have already reported success in implementing projects that achieve the agreed upon goals, representing key components of the Bahrain Economic Vision 2030. And a notable example of a national initiative that was created in Bahrain, positioning it as a vehicle to achieve multiple SDG objectives and association goals, is through the launch of Tamkeen, or the Labour Fund, that was established in 2006 as part of the country's national reform initiatives, with a key mandate of empowering people and the private sector, and of course promoting entrepreneurship. Gathered here today on behalf of Tamkeen, I take this opportunity to thank all our partners, the International Peace Institute, of course, for hosting us, the Global Entrepreneurship Network, the World Bank Group, and the Kauffman Foundation for accepting our invitation and joining us today at the panel discussion to shed light on the various reforms, policies, and initiatives that actually shed light on the efforts in supporting entrepreneurship around the world with the objective of achieving economic and social impact on individuals and businesses through embedding the concepts of the global goals. Thank you all for your efforts to enhance the entrepreneurial ecosystem in countries around the world and to provide a platform for knowledge sharing across various promising economic fields. Finally, it's my utmost honor to transition this session to the moderator of this event, Dr. Yusuf Mahmoud, Senior Advisor at the International Peace Institute, who will explain more about the event objectives, the outcome of the event, and the structure for today's session. Thank you all very much, and wishing you a pleasant evening.
Thank you, Safa. I was comfortably sitting for someone to push the button for the video, so it's time for the video. Thank you very much.
Bahrain has taken major steps to present a unique experience of total development and introduce inclusive reforms in accordance with Bahrain's Economic Vision 2030 and its guiding principles of sustainability, competitiveness, and fairness. Tamkeen, the Labor Fund, is a key reform initiative that was established in 2006 with the aim to invest in the development of human resources and economic growth. Tamkeen is recognized today as a national entity that offers extensive support schemes and services on both the individual and enterprise levels to scale up Bahrain's development ecosystem. In line with Sustainable Development Goals, Tamkeen has realized key achievements over the past 12 years of operation, some of which are milestones toward meeting SDG numbers 5, 8, 9, and 17. As part of its efforts to promote women's participation in the total development, Tamkeen has specifically designed financing and business incubation programs to support female-owned startups to help them develop and grow, a vital step that contributes to the fulfillment of the 5th SDG of achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls. Today, 47% of citizens served by Tamkeen are Bahraini women. As part of its Women's Enablement Scheme, Tamkeen boasts that 83% of women served managed to start up successful ventures. As for the training initiatives, over 50,000 women have been supported through Tamkeen's training programs, representing 53% of the total support. Goal number 8 on promoting sustainable economic growth, employment, and decent work closely corresponds to Tamkeen's wide range of initiatives launched at both individual and enterprise levels. Since its establishment in 2006, Tamkeen has injected more than $3 billion towards supporting over 170,000 enterprises and individuals. The Business Development Initiative supported more than 45,000 enterprises, making up 53% of active businesses across the country. The amount injected also supported the training and development of more than 125,000 individuals, representing 38% of Bahraini workforce in the private sector, offered through training and career progression programs. Tamkeen's wage increment initiatives contributed to an average increase of 9% in the salaries of Bahrainis, while other initiatives supported the creation of more than 8,500 employment opportunities in the market. Stressing the significant impact of the 9th goal, build resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation, financing was one of the most essential services enabled through Tamkeen to help enterprises grow their businesses. With access to financing of up to $3.1 million, Tamkeen, in collaboration with various partner banks, businesses are now able to access financing with a subsidy of 50% of the annual profit rate. Partnerships for the goals is another objective of the SDGs that has been highlighted through Tamkeen's 12 years of work through over 4,500 public engagements and consultations to collect the feedback of more than 120,000 key partners across the country. The consultations were aimed at understanding the expectations of partners, their views, and suggestions to improve and develop initiatives that better meet the needs of the market. Addressing the different sustainable development issues, Tamkeen's indirect contribution to other SDGs include indicators of good health and well-being, quality education, affordable and clean energy, and reduced inequalities. In the aspect of good health and well-being, Tamkeen managed to date the training of more than 2,500 individuals to become qualified healthcare practitioners. It also served around 10% of Bahrainis in initiatives that fall under the healthcare sector. Quality education also had its share of contribution in Tamkeen's support programs. Around 4,000 students are trained every year in partnership with the Junior Achievement Program to expand youth education, thus contributing to economic development. More than 38,500 individuals are trained and certified in more than 40 different fields. To promote efforts toward affordable and clean energy, Tamkeen has been supporting businesses that enable energy efficiency and renewables. Reduced inequalities objectives are fulfilled throughout Tamkeen's initiatives aimed primarily to empower individuals to get fair chances to compete in the workforce through access to quality training, foster inclusive growth by encouraging the economic participation of Bahraini nationals, support niche industries, fisheries, agriculture, through events, incubators, funding, etc. Tamkeen is keen on focusing its ambition in meeting the strategic goals of Bahrain Economic Vision 2030, which clearly outlines its aspirations in shifting the country's economy from depending only on oil wealth to a productive, sustainable, globally competitive economy driven by a pioneering private sector.
I now
In the
invite
last decade, the Kingdom of Bahrain has taken major steps to present a unique experience of total development and introduce
my script says there's only one video. So may I please invite our speakers to join me?
Thank you very much. Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. There are some seats in the front here if some of you would like to take a seat in the front, you're welcome. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished panelists. Very briefly, you have in the blue sheets in front of you their bios. Let me start with my left, Dr. Nasser Qaidi, Chief Investment and Marketing Officer at Tamkeen. And to his left, Mr. Jonathan Ottmans, Global Entrepreneurship Network, founder and president of the network. And then to his left, Ms. Lana Al-Attar, founder of Bujuju. She'll tell you what Bujuju is in a minute. A digital agency providing development and IT consultancy to good social initiatives and companies. And to my immediate right, Mr. Victor Mulas, Disruptive Technology Initiative Core Team, and President at the President Office at the World Bank Group. And then to his right, last but not least, Dr. Samiksha Desai, Director of Knowledge Creation and Research in Entrepreneurship at the Kauffman Foundation. Welcome to all of them. We are very delighted that they are here to enlighten us. The way we have agreed to proceed is for me to ask each speaker 2 questions that is more or less the translation of the question that you have on the screen, but tailored to their perspective and their comparative advantage and experiences. I have asked, and each speaker has kindly accepted to answer these 2 questions in 5 minutes. If you see me stand up, means I'm celebrating that they have stuck to that agreement. If they see me fidgeting, they will understand they need to conclude. So hopefully they will spare me the latter spectacle. And without further ado, I'm going to give them the floor. But after they speak, hopefully we'll have a good 40 minutes for question and answers. And then I will bring the event to a conclusion by taking 5 minutes or so to share with you what I believe should be the takeaway from what we will have heard. So this is where, how we're going to go about it. And therefore, without further ado, it's my pleasure to start with Dr. Al-Qaidi. But before I give the floor to Dr. Al-Qaidi, who is, as I mentioned, from Tamkeen, he's the Chief Investment of Marketing Officer at Tamkeen. For some of you who probably don't know Arabic, do you know what Tamkeen is?
Obey.
Huh?
Obey.
Obey. Oh, the exact opposite, my friend. I don't know what kind of Arabic you taught. You better not saying it in front of women. Now, Tamkeen means the enabler, the empowerer, the ones who unleash the inherent capacity of individuals, and once he has or she has done that, she better get out of the way. So that's what Tamkeen is about. And therefore, our first speaker, Dr. Al-Qaidi, is from Tamkeen, and the two questions that we have for him are the following. In light of what we just watched through the video, can you expand on the role of education in fostering entrepreneurship? And also, how is Tamkeen engaging and leveraging its relationship with the private sector to help achieve the 2030 agenda? You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mahmoud. Thank you, my colleagues, for being on the stage with us today. And thank you all for attending this very important session where we really give us the opportunity to communicate, give you a little bit of a snapshot on what we're doing as a country and how Tamkeen is contributing to the SDGs. As Mr. Mahmoud clearly mentioned, Tamkeen means empowerment and enablement. And I think when you're talking about learning and development and nurturing an environment that is able to prosper and grow, learning and development becomes a critical aspect of any prospering community across any country in the world. Tamkeen was established for that particular purpose, to ensure that we are able to provide support solutions to the private sector and enable the private sector to take control of the development and the direction of the economic growth of the country. This is based upon the vision of the government to transition Bahrain from an oil-based economy to is driven by private sector development. So where the private sector becomes the engine of economic growth, and where through the provision of different support initiatives, Tamkeen is able to allow citizens and those operating business in Bahrain to basically explore any opportunities that are able to enhance their standard of living, growth, development, and really take advantage of what the country has to offer. And I think within the scope of what Tamkeen has to offer, we are an organization which has tackled multiple segments in terms of we provide support solutions to youth, to job seekers, to employees, to startups, growth stage businesses, and mature businesses. And our objective here is to look at the entire ecosystem and make sure that the support is there so that people can leverage on any opportunity that they would like to fulfill their ambitions and development objectives. So when we're talking about learning and development, a key element of what Tamkeen does is, again, providing access to solutions that will enable you to, again, get more information about what's happening in the market, what skills are required, what are the development plans and objectives of the country, where market opportunities exist both locally and internationally, and how you as an individual can take advantage of those to enhance your standard of living and contribute positively to the growth of the economy. And this is essentially how we view things, in that by taking the power to the communities and making sure that the private sector leads the growth agenda, and making sure that as a country we are allowing citizens to play a proactive role and participate proactively in the growth of the national economy. And this is a key paradigm shift in terms of looking at a population or around the world which often looks at government to steer and drive economic growth. And so what we want to invest in is the ability of individuals to grasp opportunities on their own, provide them with the resources that they need to make that leap forward. And Tamkeen does that through multiple ends. We invest in provision of grants, we provide financing, as was mentioned in the video, we provide training support, we have internationalization programs, we are developing export solutions. And this is just basically a snapshot of all the projects that we have to offer. But essentially, we would like to cater all solutions to any individual that is looking to invest positively in their future in the country. So when we're talking about how we operate, Tamkeen works very much in a position of a bridge between the private sector and the government, where we are a quasi-government entity. We are not we work very closely with the private sector. Our board is comprised of different stakeholders from the private sector and government, where we take into consideration all views and issues that need to be considered to make sure that Tamkeen is providing positive, tangible support to the private sector on all levels. Through this, we conduct numerous public consultations, numerous engagements with the private sector to ensure that we are really hearing the views of what's happening in the market and how we can adapt our programs and initiatives to better serve the needs of all citizens. And to meet those development objectives that we have, it's very important to make sure that the private sector is fully involved and engaged in that process. So when we're looking at how we develop our solutions, how we can contribute better, if we do not hear the voices of the people who we're supposed to be serving, then we are not doing the job as effectively as we could. And so we take very seriously the point that our very democratic, proactive approach to developing our projects and solutions, which is making sure that we engage with all necessary stakeholders, whether they are from the private sector, from civil society, from the government, to and NGOs to develop the right solutions and be open to new ideas. With ever-changing dynamics in the private sector, we are often looking to adapt quickly. Bahrain is a small country, and so we have to work extra hard to make sure that we are developing solutions that work better. And so this is something that we are keen to work with multiple institutions around the world, including the Global Entrepreneurship Network, to bring in the Global Entrepreneurship Congress to Bahrain next year. And we're again act as a bridge, as a platform to allow different opportunities, different organizations to see the value of doing business in Bahrain. And where through our entrepreneurship support, we're very keen on positioning Bahrain as a platform for startups, and by providing them with learning opportunities, development opportunities as individuals, and then translating those similar suite of solutions to the businesses once they establish. So we are trying to make a very strong proactive footprint in the region and globally, and I think this is why we are so engaged with many communities around the world to try to promote different solutions and opportunities, because we're a small economy, we have to look globally, and we have to make sure that companies and individuals do think globally when it comes to innovation, how they position themselves, how they position their ideas. They have to be open, pioneering, and innovative in the way they view their plans and opportunities. And we obviously will continue this path going forward, and we look to engage as many partners as possible, again, to look at how we can work together. We are an organization that our bread and butter is partnerships. We are, when we say Tamkeen means enablement and empowerment, that means we can't do anything on our own. We have to work with other parties to get things done. And the best way to do it is by establishing stable, long-term partnerships to invest in new ideas, be able to adapt, be able to innovate, and make sure that our solutions do achieve tangible impact for our community of customers, the national economy, and all our stakeholders that we continue with.
Thank you very much for being brief and for sharing with us your perspective. So based on Bahrain experience and on the basis of what Madame Safa shared with us, so you need three things, and I'm summarizing quickly: a national vision, a support mechanism, an enabler, a mechanism that bridges various stakeholders, that foster partnership, but also create ecosystem where learning and empowering is made possible. So citizens are just as leaders as those who are enabling them. So thank you for sharing with us these very valuable thought based on Bahrain's experience. It's my pleasure now to give the floor to Mr. Jonathan Ortmans. I usually check to make sure that I give the floor to a man, then a woman, then a man, then a woman. Obviously, I didn't do my homework this time. So without further ado, Mr. Ortmans, the two questions that I have for you, how can this global entrepreneurial ecosystem that you've been developing over the years be leveraged to facilitate the implementation of the SDG? My second question, which really came from reading by chance one of some of the articles that you've written, we live in a world where in many societies hope and trust seem to be in short supply, leaving many people behind. From your experience, can entrepreneurship help turn this around? Thank you.
Well, thank you for those lovely questions. And first of all, of course, thank you to the International Peace Institute for having us, and indeed to our dear friends at Tamkeen and the World Bank, and of course, especially for me, the Kauffman Foundation, that has been the inspiration of our work over the course of the last 10 years. You've got before you some astounding examples of thought leadership and intelligent thinking about how we've waded through the future with this. So I want to congratulate both the Kingdom of Bahrain and indeed IPI for putting this together. I think I'll start with the second question if I can first. You know, I think we're now entering a period that I've often talked about where we reinvented what entrepreneurship is about in a global context. It used to be that it had a kind of narrow commercial significance. And one of the things that we've discovered in working in this field and building ecosystems in, as best we can in 170 countries is that it's really rather represented the possibility of a human endeavor for the benefit of all. It's become, as we've democratized entrepreneurship, it has indeed become a global Tamkeen. It's become an enabler. It's become a beacon of hope, I think, for many people in parts of the world that have not seen that hope. And better still, beyond the extraordinary new profiles of this generation of entrepreneurs who are less selfish, they're global, they're connected, they like to have fun, but most importantly, they view the world ahead of them as a glass half full, not half empty, which is important. We see globalization being attacked, and we see lots of, at least things that we used to hold true being challenged right now, and great conflicts across the world. And I think entrepreneurs just see a path forward. They look, they see political disruption, they see economic disruption, they see disruption of traditional business models, and they don't get frightened. They don't think, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in the future? They actually look at it, they thrive on that uncertainty and that unpredictability that has been poured all over us over the last few years. In fact, they view it as when you shake up the rules as an opportunity to do something better and faster that will enable more people and do it in a more inclusive way. So, on that optimistic note, there's another note which I think is relevant to the people in this room, because I'm not looking out on a room of people who are entrepreneurs. I've had the great privilege of building and selling 2 companies and of being an economist, but also working for government. So I've sort of worked on both sides of the public and private sector environment. But what's really happened is that we've got a new era, a very, very new era, where it's no longer about public-private partnerships, in my view. I think we've even moved beyond that. It's an era where public sector institutions, whether it be governments and indeed NGOs, have become symbiotically connected to entrepreneurs. So what do I mean by that? Why does that matter? Well, 10 years ago, if you were an entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, you did everything you could to be polite to the people that lived in Washington, D.C. and in government, but ostensibly you felt that they were irrelevant. They were unimaginative, rather gray characters that wore suits and ties, and they certainly didn't represent the energy and the vigor that you found in your own local startup ecosystem. That's now changed. It's changed when you've got entrepreneurs like Steve Case, who at the beginning of every speech he gives in every town across this country, he will say, if you are an entrepreneur and you're not following public policy, forget it. It's now part of the fabric of the ecosystem. So it's not just public-private sectors, it's a community, it's an ecosystem which makes up thinkers, makes up entrepreneurs, investors, but makes up governments at the local and at the national level. And so I think you're now in an environment where also we've unleashed armies of people that, in the name of hope, are trying to create a better future for themselves. And there's only so many things that they can do before they start getting involved in disrupting the traditional, semi-regulated businesses and industries of our planet. And when they start to do that, they realize that they can't do it unless they're doing it holding hands with the regulators and the public institutions that must manage and control those models in the future. So for a quick analogy, it's the notion that if you're going to be Uber and you're going to go into Paris and you're going to create a new type of entity that people don't know whether it's a taxi cab company or a piece of technology, naturally the sensible way to do this would be that you're sitting down having that discussion, thinking about the public at hand and the broader interests together. I want to echo one other point that actually we discussed at lunch. What we've been doing about this, to come to the second question, is at GEN, the Global Entrepreneurship Network, where we're very privileged to be doing ecosystem building work in 170 countries. We're looking at both data collection and research to be able to make sure that what we do is informed by reality, that we're looking for more robust analysis, because there's been a lot of energy and enthusiasm into creating more and more entrepreneurial support programs, but we haven't actually seen the kind of results we should have for the level of energy and investment that's gone into it. We've also done a substantial amount of work at rolling out better and more advanced interventions to help communities and indeed the startups in them to be able to create the opportunities that there may be talent, but we're trying to create the opportunities. But we've also done a third thing which I think is particularly relevant for this international audience, and that's we've tried to find an onboarding, a make ready, a cultural bridge and transition for governments to be able to enter this world. It's still very difficult. It's a little bit of oil and water still out there. And in that regard, at Global Entrepreneurship Network, the way we've done this is by building a global grassroots community over the course of the last 10 years. A community that actually feels so empowered and enabled, they feel like actually they're stronger than their own governments. You know, today is a lot happening in Moscow. I think we all read the newspapers. But when we held our Global Entrepreneurship Congress in Moscow, we did it 1 week by serendipity. I see one person who was there after Mr. Putin had invaded the Crimea, and of course there was a big geopolitical dispute. And interestingly, you have 7,000 people building ecosystems around the world. Only 13 didn't show up. And they found that very enabling. They realized that actually maybe they were actually stronger than any one head of state. That maybe they had a power and a force for good that was built on something that had sustainable value. And that currency is this. That currency is trust. Didn't matter what country they came from, role they played in the ecosystem, what culture, what language. At the end of the day, they had built trust across national boundaries. And I think that's the great power before you. It's not just the work that we're going to do more directly, supporting the SDGs and in working more closely in intermingling our cultures and our work, but it's also the fact that we think that entrepreneurs will bring a grassroots, enormous volume of trust. There are some programs that operate in all countries in the world to help entrepreneurs that literally reach thousands of entrepreneurs a year. That those entrepreneurs are constantly in touch with each other. They're building communities that can build trust, and I think that's a very important currency for those of you who are looking in the environmental piece. So I echo that, and in that spirit, I'll finish by also emphasizing that in addition to the work we do at the ministerial level, we will be having a ministerial in Bahrain, where we'll be inviting governments from across the world to come together in that spirit to share knowledge as to how they leverage that trust in a policy environment. And we're very, very, very proud to be partnering with the Kingdom of Bahrain and Tamkeen and various other partners in having that held in Manama next April. We hope all of you will come. You're all welcome, and we can provide information. And if you want further information, we have it at the back on the right, books and so forth. So thank you so much indeed. This has been an honor to be here. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ortmans. We clap at the end. We will clap at the end. I promise you I'll give you the opportunity. I don't know if it is by accident or by design. Have you heard of the phrase, yes I can? Yeah. And Tamkeen and can have something in common. And I was struck by how you said that entrepreneurship is about hope creation and trust creation. And the ecosystem tries to create the environment for these to foster these important qualities. And I really like how you have underlined the importance of building communities across borders, and how you are looking to use the SDG to upscale this new definition that you want to give to entrepreneurship, different meaning. It's my now pleasure to turn to our third speaker to my extreme right, Dr. Samiksha Desai. And the two questions that I have for you, Dr. Desai, is how is your foundation addressing the barriers that stand in the way of the dream that we've been talking about, these dreamers with big ideas. And in your opinion, how can your foundation and partner organization can make entrepreneurship work for the SDGs? Dr. Desai, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I'll actually start with a question, if I may. How many people in the room know exactly what the barriers in their ecosystems are and how to fix them? I see two hands.
What barriers are?
What the barriers in your ecosystem are and how to fix them.
What do you mean by ecosystem?
Yeah.
That's right.
So I'll back up and tell you a little bit about what we do at the Kauffman Foundation. Our founder developed a focus on education in entrepreneurship because of his own life experiences, and that's the mission that we serve. When we talk about entrepreneurship in the context of ecosystems, we use the language of barriers because we're really focused on what prevents a person who has a good idea, who has a goal, and who has the ability to turn that idea into a successful business. What keeps that person from doing so? And in some cases, the barriers may be related to geography, they may be related to immigration status, they may be related to educational status, race, infrastructure. And so we really look at it from the question of what has caused the decline in entrepreneurship in the United States and what can we do to reverse that decline. We have the advantage of being very close to entrepreneurs and the organizations that support them. Through our grant making, we issue grants to entrepreneurship support organizations, wide variety of types. And we really want to focus on magnifying impact. One of the things that we do is research, and we issued this year, for example, the Knowledge Challenge. It's the first year that we're doing this. And the basic idea is that we look for really impactful, actionable research where we can go to entrepreneurs, we can take our findings, we can go to entrepreneurship support organizations, and we can say, this is what we've learned that can help you. I'll address the second question in that context. The foundation and other organizations really have a responsibility to listen. We have to listen to entrepreneurs, and that's the first step in actually serving them. One of the things that that we can do with listening is we can then take that and we can look at ecosystems around the world, around the country, and we can start to identify the common themes and then the particular questions that relate to barriers in each individual ecosystem. From a research perspective, what we really want to do is learn. So we want to be able to say, these are the problems, this is how we weight them, right? This is how we know that this problem is particularly difficult for this type of entrepreneur in this kind of ecosystem. So we want to get fine grained. We want to get to low levels of disaggregation so that we can understand what to do and where and for whom. And then the other thing that we have to do is we have to take our information, we have to take the knowledge that we create, and we have to share. Right? We have to share and we have to learn from each other. Partnerships are an extremely important part of learning. We're in an age also where data and information technology make it really easy for us to share information. And so we want to take our learnings and we want to take them all the way back, for example, to grant making or to the organizations that we first support. And we want to say, this is what we learned. And then we want to continue that dialogue. So I view it as a feedback loop where we're constantly moving from one problem, generating knowledge, using that knowledge to address the problem, and then continuing with the next problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Two important elements that I noted from your brief intervention, and thank you for being brief. One is you dedicate your efforts to understand what prevents a person who has an idea to make it happen. And you do that with the understanding not only to address whatever barriers are the way, but also make sure that impact and magnifying is important. The second point, which is usually unusual, at least from the field where I come from, that you listen with the intent to understand, with the intent to learn, not necessarily quickly solve or help. And then on the basis of that, provide the support and the mechanism for that person to be empowered. That's very, very helpful. For our audience here, you throw a big word, it's still a big word with me. Can you take maybe less than a minute to, what is an ecosystem? What kind of animal is this?
It's, yeah. So it's an acknowledgement that there's no linear process in entrepreneurship, and that the environment that an entrepreneur is working in is really a complex system. And it has many moving parts, and so it's very rare, and we've seen this from history, that you can say, this is the one factor, right, that matters completely and only in the system for the entrepreneur. And so the ecosystems approach really looks at the complex relationships between the different types of influences that can shape an entrepreneur's decision, an entrepreneur's resource allocation, resource access, and ultimately the outcome of the venture.
Thank you very much. Did you hear that? I'm going to test you what you understood.
Now, there are many ways to define an ecosystem, but it really is about the complexity of the system that the entrepreneur is embedded in.
Thank you. That's very helpful. It helped me understand what my daughter first explained to me.